Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Steve Breach coming to you here today. We're talking all about WWE Backlash 2018. I will come out and tell you that I am making these videos almost at the minute Monday Night Raw is going to start. I'm going to be uploading these videos on Tuesday. So if anything really big happens on Monday Night Raw, obviously, if I have time, I'm going to have to find a way to edit these videos and get you new ones up. But at this time, Backlash, as announced, there's going to be 6 matches. More than likely, somewhere on Raw or SmackDown, I would guess we're going to be getting at least 2 more main event matches and probably 1 pre-show match to go along with it. I will tell you that, honestly, WWE Backlash does not have me interested, I guess you can say, at all, because of the brand split. This was a very weird show. I remember right off the bat, you had Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe, for this. Samoa Joe, who made his return after WrestleMania, challenged Roman Reigns, thinking that Roman was going to be the WWE champion, and he wanted to be the first guy to come after that. I believe that added some fun to that because I think everybody thought that Roman Reigns was going to be the WWE champion after the Saudi Arabia show, but that didn't happen. So this now is just a Raw versus SmackDown match. I remember at one point we had a WrestleMania rematch for the United States Championship. We had Jinder Mahal going up against Randy Orton. I made a video about that match, basically saying that I didn't think it was going to be that exciting to see that match, and because of the brand split and Jinder going to Raw, the match made even less sense. But basically, Jinder showed up on Raw, dropped the championship right out of the gate to Jeff Hardy. I'm guessing that Jeff and Jinder are going to have a rematch at Backlash now, but that Randy Orton match is completely off the show, and much like Randy Orton at WrestleMania time, now here we come to Backlash. Randy Orton is a guy that gonna be looking for something to do. It's one of the reasons why I thought Randy was gonna get moved to Raw during the Superstar Shakeup, because it was almost like Randy's a legend in WWE. He's done a lot of cool stuff, but what's he really been doing now? He was in a tag team last year at WrestleMania. He fought for the championship after winning the Royal Rumble, beating Bray Wyatt in a match that probably no one's ever going to watch ever again. The ring turning into maggots and worms. Wasn't really well received at the time, and I don't really see it as a match that's going to get better in time. So, even though he won a championship at WrestleMania, it's probably one of the most forgettable matches of his long career. To me, because of the Superstar Shakeup and because of WrestleMania, I know that, WWE, they want to be firing on all cylinders. After WrestleMania, you have so many people that get the network, and I guess that if you got the network the day of WrestleMania, I guess you're still in the same billing period, so you would have got WrestleMania, the world's greatest Royal Rumble, and Backlash, all for the price of $9.99. If you were to delete either, the night after Backlash, or the night of Backlash, or maybe the morning after, you get away with having all 3 of those for one low price, as well as having NXT, and maybe even the Hall of Fame if it matters. It just seems like, WrestleMania was almost yesterday, to the point, you look at, Nakamura going up against AJ Styles for the 3rd time in a month. Even though that is a match that I think most people are going to be crossing their fingers, hopefully really, really is a good one, I don't think it's one that people are really going to be like, this is going to be the one, the instant classic. It's not like, I've liked the matches. I'm just talking about, the response I read online. People feel like they've got burned twice by that one. I wonder if they're really going to care. Daniel Bryan, of course, coming back and wrestling at WrestleMania was a really big emotional thing for WrestleMania. Now Daniel Bryan was one of the coolest stories of WrestleMania 34, making his return to the ring, and here we are going into Backlash, and Daniel Bryan's going up against Big Cass. To me, you got David versus Goliath, and it is what it is. It just, I understand Big Cass was the heel before he went down, and Big Cass wants to be a big heel on the SmackDown thing since moving over. He wants to say that this is going to be his house, but I don't take Big Cass as being. I guess I just don't believe that Big Cass is going to be kicking anybody's ass. Can he kick my ass? Yeah, but as a professional wrestler on the main roster in WWE, it's just not a big deal to me. You've got Alexa Bliss going up against Nia Jax. That to me, honestly, should be a squash match, even though it was not so much at WrestleMania. Nia to me, it should be a real big baby face on the roster. She was able to beat Alexa. Alexa went through a lot of tests as being the champion for SmackDown and Raw in her last 2 years, but although I think she's going to be a big piece of WWE, it's time for Nia to move out and find some new challengers that's going to be out there. We got the Seth Rollins versus The Miz match for the Intercontinental Championship. I think especially after the World's Greatest Royal Rumble that we just had, the match that most people want to see is Rollins versus Balor. Miz wants a chance to win the Intercontinental Championship because he wants to break Pedro Morales' record of holding the championship for the most amount of days, even though he's got a ton more reigns than Morales had. I think the story of Intercontinental Championship, United States Championships, switching shows is done. Focus Miz on SmackDown. Make him that guy that we see going against Daniel Bryan, because that's the match that people actually want to see. We've been waiting on this match for over a year, thinking that it was never going to happen, but hoping that it does. And now these guys are both on the same show. You teased it on the Superstar Shakeup, sending Miz to SmackDown early, and it's still not delivering on it. I know it's not going to be the main event, but Charlotte versus Carmella for the SmackDown Women's Championship, I think that's a money match right there. Charlotte's pissed. Carmella basically cheated by using the Money in the Bank. She did not win a real match, even though Charlotte got beat up by the iconic duo, coming over from NXT in their debut. Carmella just was the vulture who picked up the scrapes. So we'll have to see how this pans out. As of right now, those 6 matches, they don't really sound that they're going to deliver to it. And it doesn't look like we're going to be getting a true, real main event. So it looks like Roman versus Samoa Joe is going to be that closer match that ends the show. To me, I'm not saying I'm not going to watch it. I'm just saying that it doesn't seem like it's going to be must-see TV. All right, WWE Raw Women's Championship on the line at Backlash 2018 with Nia Jax going up against Alexa Bliss. Everybody goes back to WrestleMania. Nia Jax was able to win the Raw Women's Championship from Alexa Bliss in pretty much dominant fashion, to the point where I honestly am surprised they're running this back for a rematch. I thought that Nia would be sort of going out and getting new competitors to face for the Women's Championship. Sometimes when, women hold the Women's Championship for the first time, it's almost like the belt drops down and becomes a lesser title. You can remember like when Paige won the championship after WrestleMania 30 when she beat AJ Lee. She was going out in there and she was having matches against Tamina. She was having matches against AJ Styles. It was almost like they give somebody lesser talent with to have matches that they know they're going to go out and win, thinking that's going to, in the fans' minds, get them used to seeing them as champion, building them up to wanting to see new ones. I know that, when you look at the women's division, one of the storylines that they're going to be running is Ronda Rousey going up against Mickie James. I know that's going to be worked on television a little bit, as well as on a few house shows. You don't really want to kill that off. You don't really want to be using Ronda Rousey matches on a pay-per-view like Backlash. But it's almost like that match is going to be the Monday Night Raw women's division sort of main event right there. That's the one reason that is sort of surprising they're doing this. Also, we haven't seen Alexa Bliss on television since WrestleMania. I wish I could remember the way that they're using it, talking about it on the dirt sheets and on websites and things like that. I don't know if they're calling it cosmetic surgery or if they're just calling it what's the surgery called? Like when you get it for yourself, like you self-need it, like doctor's not telling you. Well, basically, the word is on the street is that she got her boobs done. And, the pictures that she's been posting, sitting out by the pool, relaxing, sort of, she's using that Total Divas money well, I guess is the way that you could say. I guess WWE is almost handing those out like candy these days. In the last few weeks, we've heard about Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, both going in for this. Now, seeing Alexa Bliss do it. Bliss has ran wild over SmackDown and over Raw the last 2 years. I know that, she was the champion on SmackDown. She dropped the belt and then she flipped to Raw. Some people thought that there was no way in the world she was going to go on a run like she did on SmackDown and she would just sort of fall into the back. But instead, she raised her game. It's almost like she pushed herself. She's been better on the main roster than she ever was when she was in NXT, when basically she was wrestling for a while, and then she just dropped out to become a manager to Blake and Murphy. And then, she got that small push, moving up the women's division, but never really became the main deal there. Never even really worked her way into the main event of being there. The only main event match she ever had was her and Sasha when she wrestled in her hometown during the Arnold Classic. And that was years ago, before WrestleMania 31, I believe. So at the pay-per-view, I think Nia Jax is going to win in dominant fashion. And then from there, she'll move on to facing whether it's Natalya or, Mickie James, somebody like that, that's a heel on the roster. There's lots of women out there. I don't want Alexa to fall off the face of the earth. I think that by SummerSlam, she'll be right back into the thick of things. But it'd be fun to see people like Sasha Banks and Bayley get a shot to go after that title as well. Alright, I know that in this video, or these string of videos, I know that I've been really negative on the WWE Backlash 2018 show, basically saying because of the Superstar Shakeup, because of WrestleMania, because of the Greatest Royal Rumble, because of the fact that we've had 3 big shows in less than a month, and now they're pushing Backlash at us, basically saying that they're going to be combining the Raw and SmackDown shows, two shows for the price of one, even though any idiot out there looking is basically saying, hey, you used to give us 2 shows for $9.99, now you're giving us 1 show. That's the opposite. You're giving us 1 for what we've been used to for the price of 2. So we're the ones getting hosed. Quit trying to make it look like you just made everything better, by sort of making it easier on you guys and taking less risk and trying to save money by only running one pay-per-view a month instead of giving us the normal 2. But the one saving light for this show is going to be Carmella putting up her SmackDown Women's Championship on the line against Charlotte Flair. Carmella picked the bones off of the carcass, much like, a vulture would have done, after the iconic duo made their debut on the SmackDown brand after WrestleMania. And basically Carmella came running down to cash in that Money in the Bank that everybody kept on wondering when she was going to cash in. We basically saw Carmella be the first one dumped out of the Women's Royal Rumble, the Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania, because of the fact that everybody looked at her as she was a threat, and she was sort of showing off with her briefcase, and everybody just sort of had enough of her. And everybody was wondering, is this because they wanted to save Carmella for later in the show, whether if that was during the Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss match, or the Charlotte versus Asuka match, where both of those girls would just go out there and beat the hell out of each other, to the point of whoever won was going to be beat up enough that Carmella would be able to, just basically strip the title off her. But it turns out that the beatdown on SmackDown was all the opening that she needs. And now Charlotte is pissed. She wants retribution. She wants her championship back. But here we are in the era of Carmella. that we have to see where this goes from here. If Carmella actually is going to have some sort of a treaty or some sort of a friendship with the iconic duo, that this turns into a 3-on-1 affair. We still have to remember that Asuka, who came over to SmackDown in the Superstar Shakeup, she is in the background. So where is Asuka going to fit into this women's championship picture for SmackDown? She really hasn't been around to the point where she's been making any buzz since moving over to SmackDown. To me, I understand that she lost her streak, and maybe that was a little bit of her sort of buzz that was around her, but her moving to SmackDown, I think, puts her in a little bit of a less light. I was really surprised that they moved Charlotte over there last year. But after Charlotte ran over Monday Night Raw holding the championship for so long, that she needed some fresh competition. And for her to be there, here she is doing what her dad, basically got famous for in the wrestling business, making a new name. We'll have to see what goes down at Backlash. I love Charlotte. I think that she's one of the best women there is wrestling in WWE, and I know that people are even hyped maybe for a Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey match at WrestleMania, but I'm picking Carmella to keep that championship. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think Carmella is keeping that title at Backlash. In one of those matches that don't really make a lot of sense, but it needs to happen because it is a WrestleMania rematch. Even though it happened in a three-way, The Miz lost his Intercontinental Championship to Seth Rollins, and The Miz wants it back. He's only days away from breaking Pedro Morales' record of the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in WWF history, and even though The Miz has a lot more reigns, and I think Pedro did it at only 2, I think that, Miz deserves to be in that topic of conversation of being one of the top Intercontinental Champions of all time. I know that I made a video a few years ago. I can't remember if The Miz was in there, but I put Mr. Perfect. I put Bret Hart. Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado, was a little bit of a surprise to me, but he's one of those guys that was Intercontinental Champion at a time when I was sort of noticing what the Intercontinental title really meant to wrestling. And I think that if I made that video again today, that he would be in that topic of conversation of moving in on becoming one of the best guys of all time. You got to be thinking about the Honky Tonk Man as well. Longest reign. Here we are sort of knocking The Miz for having so many reigns to be in that topic of conversation. But the Honky Tonk Man was the last real guy to hold that belt and hold on to it for a while. I mean, we've had guys come close, but not really be there. I mean, people were making the jokes about Santino Marella, but there was no way he held that title for over a year. When they were doing the whole Hunkameter gimmick, and they even brought in Honky Tonk Man, I think, for like a Cyber Sunday or a Taboo Tuesday, whatever timeline that really happened. Rollins looks like he's going to be having the championship right now. I will knock this match by saying that, especially with the ending of the Greatest Royal Rumble during that latter match, Rollins versus Balor is a match that I know is on a lot of house shows. I know that Rollins versus Balor, in my mind, is something that I really want to see. I think for them to have a sort of singles, babyface versus babyface match, a lot like the whole Finn Balor versus AJ Styles match that happened at TLC, where guys just go out there to find out who's the best wrestler is. Having the Intercontinental Championship above it could be really entertaining. Plus, I was sort of knocking WrestleMania and the Greatest Royal Rumble, 2 big shows where they highlight the characters as well as the wrestlers, and for them not to build upon the whole Demon thing. We haven't seen the Demon since TLC last year, and that match was supposed to be the payoff on the Bray Wyatt versus Finn Balor feud, but Bray Wyatt, came down with, what did he have? It was like mono, or, one of those sort of, it was something. It was the mumps, wasn't it? The mumps was getting spread around the WWE locker room when everybody was coming down sick, and was not able to work, and that's why they brought over AJ to fill out the card, because that pay-per-view really needed it, honestly, in my mind. Roman was out sick as well, and you have to have the stars there, and bringing over the guy from SmackDown to have sort of a dream match, really worked out. But we haven't seen the Demon since then, and then for them not to build upon the Demon, which is a big part of WWE. It sells a lot of figures for Finn Balor. It sells a lot of backpacks, T-shirts, and it's a gimmick that they really haven't used in months.
I don't really mean to really knock it. I just really want to see the Demon. But it turns out this match is going to be The Miz against Seth Rollins. I can see on WWE right now that Finn Balor is inside the ring. I guess he's asking for a match to go down tonight. We would totally screw up this video. It would be pretty cool if Balor actually beat Rollins tonight on Raw. And then we would have the WrestleMania rematch of the three-way actually going down again at Backlash. A lot of people thought that the three-way was one of the best matches of WrestleMania. It was a fun way to kick off the night and get everything going in the right direction of WrestleMania 34. As of right now, for this video, I think if it pans out, I'm picking Rollins to beat The Miz. I think the fairy tale of basically The Miz winning the Intercontinental Championship and taking it back to SmackDown, I think is done. The Superstar shakeup, I think, got shaken up the most by Jeff Hardy beating the recently shook up Jinder Mahal for the United States Championship. Chances of Jeff Hardy, who does not have a match yet. Some people think that it's actually going to be Randy Orton, either confronting him tonight or on, I guess it wouldn't be tonight, it would be on SmackDown, it'd be Orton versus Hardy. So I don't know how people are thinking that the United States Championship is going to get moved back over to Monday Night Raw. Because I don't think they're doing Jinder versus Jeff again. So I don't really know how that's going to pan out. So I'm picking Rollins to win this one. I hope this is going to be a good one at Backlash. At WrestleMania 34, one of the biggest stories that there was the whole show was the return of Daniel Bryan. After 2 years of being out of action since before WrestleMania 32, Bryan was told that he was cleared to wrestle, and he had a match where he teamed up with Shane McMahon going up against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. After that, basically they ran a whole storyline of Zayn and Owens being fired and sent to Monday Night Raw, where Daniel Bryan was sort of freed to sort of have an open landscape on the roster to start fresh and see where he was going to go. When Daniel Bryan's news came out, I'm sure most people were like me, pairing up dream matches, whether if it was Bryan against Nakamura, Bryan against Rollins. Bryan even said that he wants to have a match against Roderick Strong, battling against these guys that we've seen him have fights against back in ROH, or just guys that, were in New Japan at the time, or people that have come up through NXT and just saying like, man, this is going to be awesome. Daniel Bryan being one of the best workers that are in the business, knowing how to work just about any style and just about get anything over. And here comes Backlash, and Big Cass coming over from Monday Night Raw, healing up from his injury, says that he wants to prove that he's the biggest guy on the roster and wants to be the biggest star, and keeps attacking Daniel Bryan from behind. And we're led to having a Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass match. Some people think that Big Cass is actually the muscle behind The Miz because of the fact The Miz doing all of the smack talking back on Talking Smack to Daniel Bryan, basically saying that he didn't have the guts to fight him, and it just was kept on pushing and pushing and pushing, putting leverage on Daniel Bryan, knowing that they were pushing a match that never would be able to pan out because of the fact that Bryan was not allowed to wrestle. And now here, basically, The Miz was moved to SmackDown on Raw before the Superstar shakeup even happened. Basically said that, at basically everyone in WWE, from Stephanie, Triple H, Daniel Bryan, Paige, Kurt Angle, everybody just said, you know what? You're being sent to SmackDown to get your ass kicked. In my mind, Daniel Bryan versus The Miz would be the bona fide real main event of Backlash that would have people talking. Like, this is something that we're going to have to see. I don't understand Bryan versus Cass because of the fact that a lot like the WrestleMania match. How do you pick Daniel Bryan to lose? I know that Daniel Bryan's going to lose a match. He's not going to be the Bruno Sammartino of 2018, where he just mows down everyone. I think that he's going to be the person that people want to see, but at the same time, you have to understand that WWE is going to be sort of scared to put a championship on this guy, whether if it is the World Heavyweight Championship or the Intercontinental Championship, the United States belt. It doesn't matter, because both times Bryan is, came up injured, after WrestleMania 30 and WrestleMania 31, and have had to been stripped of the belt and basically change every direction there is at the company for what is going down. I think they need to count their blessings that Bryan is back on the roster, selling house show tickets, selling t-shirts, this, that, and the other, and basically build up to the point where they really know if Daniel Bryan is in this for the long haul or if he's just going to be wrestling here, there, and today and just wondering when that blow to the head's going to come that takes him out of action. At the pay-per-view, I really want to pick Daniel Bryan to win, but you got to know that Kaz just got sent to Raw. They want to make this guy look like he's a big deal. And you got to wonder if he's got to get the win. At SmackDown, for the third time in less than a month, we are going to see AJ Styles putting his WWE Championship on the line against Shinsuke Nakamura. WWE really thought they were going to knock one out of the park at WrestleMania 34, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. There were people that were clamoring to have this match at WrestleMania last year, when it looked like AJ Styles did not have the competitor for WrestleMania, thinking that Styles and Nakamura could really have a match even with no build on the WrestleMania main stage. That would live up to their Wrestle Kingdom New Japan show from a couple of years ago that really got people hooked on watching New Japan as well as following along with the Bullet Club before both would jump to WWE. It turns out that this dream match in the eyes of most wrestling fans did not knock it out of the park. So I came up and I said, hey, this Greatest Royal Rumble rematch is probably going to be one for the ages. They really wanted to make this match really matter over the history of time, where people would, mention, the Greatest Royal Rumble, whether if they released it on DVD or just people going back and watching it on the network, that it had this 5-star classic match between Styles and Nakamura. They're able to add in a new, style to the character of Nakamura. They've gone and they've switched up his music. They've changed his promos a little bit. Now he shies away from talking to fans, saying that he doesn't speak English. He doesn't want fans singing along with his themes. And just sort of becoming a chicken shit heel that likes to hit a low blow here and there along the way. Turns out at the Greatest Royal Rumble, that match ended up just being a match to plug Backlash. A double countout on a pay-per-view that people actually paid money for who didn't have the WWE Network. I know that there's not lots of people out there, but for a double countout to happen on pay-per-view in 2018, in my mind, makes no sense at all. It brings people to a point when they just throw their hands up and just say, that's it, I'm done. And that's why I'm so surprised that they're bringing this match back for a third time so fast. I still think that Nakamura and AJ Styles, if given the chance, can go out and have a really good classic match. At this point, if they don't do the title change, where Nakamura becomes the champion, I don't really know. Nakamura went through last summer where he faced against Jinder Mahal 3 pay-per-views in a row where he came up empty-handed. And I thought, well, they're just setting the table for him to win the championship at WrestleMania. And it never happened. So I don't really know what the plan is for him at this point. I remember when he got brought up to the SmackDown main roster, most people were thinking that Nakamura was going to become the new John Cena of the WWE and really be the cult following that people brought to the table. Like, you got to see this guy from Japan really do his thing because it's not like anything we've ever seen before. It's this Japanese dude who thinks he's Michael Jackson going out there and he can actually wrestle. So we'll have to see what happens from here. I guess I'm picking Nakamura to get the win here, but at this point, anything would surprise me, like AJ keeping the belt.
The main event of WWE Backlash 2018 is more than likely going to be the Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe match. Already starting out on Monday Night Raw, we've got Roman Reigns coming out. He's got the referee pleading with everyone, making the blame be put on him that he called the end of the match wrong. Basically, that Roman Reigns' feet was the first one to touch the floor in the steel cage match at the Greatest Royal Rumble show. That basically when Brock went falling through the cage, he was just scared for everyone's safety and immediately stopped the match and made the judgment call that Brock was the first one down, even though his feet were not on the floor. just to basically stop the match. WWF, if you go back to the old days during the baseball strike, I believe of '93, they actually tried using instant replay in the WWF, but it did not stick. So there was no way to make a judgment call. Somewhere down the road, Roman will get a shot at the championship. There's lots of rumors out there that Braun Strowman is actually going to be the guy that beats Brock, but that's neither here nor there. Backlash is going to have a match for some reason of Samoa Joe against Roman Reigns. These are guys that, since Samoa Joe came to WWE, they've battled a bunch of times. The last time they had a big match was when Roman beat Samoa Joe for the Intercontinental Championship. I believe, off the top of my head, that was back in December. It might even have been the Raw that was on Christmas. It was on one of those big shows. And I kind of was surprised. Roman has been United States champion. Roman was Intercontinental champion. But those belts to me, on the guy that was supposed to be the number one guy in the business, doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I guess they were trying to make it where he was humble and he was swallowing a sort of a mid-card role, even though we all knew where he was going come WrestleMania. This match to me doesn't make a lot of sense, seeing how because of the brand split, Joe is sent to SmackDown. Where he's going to be probably one of the top guys on the card over there. But they just wanted to get this match in one more time. It's, before Survivor Series, it's the last time we're going to see SmackDown versus Raw. We're also going to be getting The Miz versus Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship. Even those guys were both shown different directions. To me, I think that this match was put together too soon. Maybe at the time that they planned the Backlash match, they didn't know what was going to be going down with the Superstar Shakeup, even though it was the next week. And, we already had one match, the Orton versus Jinder match, that was thrown out the window. I don't really know why they wouldn't throw this one out as well. But we'll see what happens. I don't know, the thing off the top of my head is that they use Brock, and Brock shows up and actually beats up Roman to sort of put more "I beat you" on him. But to bring Brock in for a non-Monday Night Raw, an actual pay-per-view show, just to do a run-in, seems like it's going to be a lot of money. It's not my money. I don't know why it would matter. It just seems to always be that's what it comes down to with Brock, is that you don't want to waste his television appearances or his contract dates on non-wrestling things, unless it's to build up a show. But at this point, when are they really going to be able to do Roman versus Brock again if it's not going to be SummerSlam? Some people have thought Money in the Bank, but they could use Brock whenever they wanted to. I mean, they used Brock on a house show in Saudi Arabia to impress those guys and make a lot of money. Would they use him on a Money in the Bank? I don't know. Money in the Bank sort of is a show that sells itself by the actual Money in the Bank matches. So at this pay-per-view, I don't really know what to think. They are sort of building on a Roman Reigns losing streak as of right now. Him losing at WrestleMania, him losing at the Greatest Royal Rumble. So does he lose again? And that's sort of how he gets passed up as being the number one contender. And then it goes to a guy like Braun Strowman, and Roman goes into another feud. It just seems like Roman lost a lot of steam by them not being able to do that Shield reunion that was planned due to Roman getting hurt. What was it? I can't remember what happened to Roman. He didn't get suspended this time. He have a hernia surgery or something like that. It's something, for some reason, that's what's sticking out of the top of my head. And then, of course, Ambrose getting hurt once Roman was actually able to come back, and they weren't able to finish it. So we'll see what goes down. I'm guessing this is going to be the main event of the show. I know that AJ versus Nakamura will probably be one of the best wrestling matches of the night, hopefully. But I think that this is the biggest name, and we'll have to see how it plays out at the show.